All right, welcome guys to episode 38 of Prepared, your fortnightly-ish TBC
Oh, don't
podcast.
say that. No, fortnightly. yeah, fortnightly is right.
Yeah. So welcome back, guys. We actually got news. Yes, excellent. And funny enough, Zirene, we had to delay this podcast, so VOD viewers and such won't know, but we delayed it by one day because Zirene had things to take care of yesterday. But
No, I knew ZA was coming out, so
yeah.
and just
Yeah, exactly. People on the Discord immediately mentioned like, "Oh yeah, you guys timed it well. You timed it well. ZA came out exactly when the podcast was scheduled to be going on. You guys can thank us later because every time we schedule a podcast, Blizzard releases stuff apparently.
Yep.
So yeah, we got ZA, Wrath of the Lich King leaks and such coming out. But man, we got a lot of shenanigans stuff to talk about today with like the Hunter, the auto hotkey shenanigans, the log editing shenanigans, and then I thought we'd circle back and maybe do a little bit of seeing how wrong or right we were with regards to things like the 58 boosts, whether they actually helped or they hurt the game, and yeah, I thought it'd be interesting too.
If warriors and warriors are good,
Warriors. Yeah, warriors. PvP tourney as well was the other week, so it'll be interesting.
That's right.
There was a little
Snuts and Chan.
Yeah, Snuts and Chan just mopping the floor with the both regions
In different regions.
Yeah,
just
like, splitting. Okay. Yeah, okay, you take this one, I'll take this one.
Yeah. You take an A, I'll take AU. We got this. Good lord. And then what was it? I think I think Snuts and Chan played in different regions, and then my buddies who were like pushing rating in fives, I think. They're like 2200 or something like that in fives, and I think like the top team is like 24 or 23 right now. They immediately ran into Chan and Snuts when Snuts got his glaive, and they were like, "God, they're like, what are we supposed to do? Like, Jesus Christ!"
Yeah, I should clip I clipped it to the Chan reaction to Snuts getting a glaive, and I think his reaction was just shocked that the Snut. Did you see the Snut strategy for getting glaive?
No, did he die on this? On the fight?
No. It was to blindfold himself before the fight.
Oh yeah, he was cursed with sword. Yeah,
he cursed himself. That's right. He cursed Vision himself. Oh man. Yeah, so
that's how easy it is to play rogue, boys.
Yeah.
Oh man, but I don't think these scores have changed much. Let me check the 99th percentile here. Yeah. I was just checking in on where people are DPS wise, and it's still like BM Hunters, Fury Warriors, Arcane Mage, Destro Lock, and then Combat Rogue is 1 point behind Destro Lock. So yeah, the difference between like BM Hunter, Fury Warrior is 4 points, and then Fury Warrior to Arcane Mage is 5. And then Destro to Warlock or Arcane Mage to Lock is like 0.4, and then Lock to Rogue is like 1. So basically, the difference between a Fury Warrior and Arcane Mage, or a Fury Warrior and a BM Hunter, is bigger than the difference between a Combat Rogue and even an Arcane Mage. So yeah, so the number 3, 4, and 5 in DPS against bosses right now is basically almost tied between Mage, Lock, and Rogue at the top percentile. So Rogues are very close to being the third best DPS class on bosses right now.
Yeah. Rogues are actually doing okay in BT. It's a pity about Hydro.
They're doing okay.
It's a pity about Hydro.
That's why I only care about bosses here. Yeah. That's all they can do, right?
Yeah, there's an ongoing joke in my guild because we have multiple rogues, and as there anyone who's ever had to run a raid with multiple rogues knows, unless you have 2 enhanced shamans, the second is just horrible trying to fit in an extra melee into somewhere to actually have him useful. And we joke about the reward of if you do well, you get to go to a Hydro, because my raid leader likes to bring that same rogue to Hydro, and all the rogues are like, I don't want to go to Hydro, man. I suck in Hydro. Like, I need nothing in Hydro, and my DPS is horrible.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I need any items in Hydro anymore. I think I legit need 0.
Yeah, like, because all you need is like the 2 tier pieces, and then you get the Exalted rep, and you're basically done.
There's that's actually
Hydro. Yeah,
that's actually, I literally need nothing from Hydro. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have that, but it was nice that they've, I guess, unofficially confirmed that Wrath of the Lich King is coming. Although I guess everyone kind of would guess it makes complete.
If they didn't do it,
they're just throwing away money, and we know Blizzard does not want to throw away money, so they
unless it's through a CEO. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So for people
But
that don't know, the RAF files leaked in the client update for one of the interface things. So you can see here, I'm showing on the screen that, but they basically there are some interface elements that are only for RAF got leaked in the upcoming patch stuff for the final build of 2.5.4. So yeah, RAF definitely, well not definitely, but pretty much they wouldn't be adding them unless they were prepping for RAF. So it's nice
the
to
glue
see.
buttons.
Yeah, it's nice to see that we got the RAF coming. Are you still on the same thing that you might not play RAF, or you think you're gonna play RAF now, Zirene?
I I think what I'm gonna do is I will probably play Rogue in PvE and Paladin in PvE, but the problem is I know Paladin's gonna be an incredibly saturated class in Wrath. Heroic Strike gets changed, so Warrior becomes less fun because Heroic Strike becomes an instant attack instead of like a next swing. So I'm probably gonna retire my Prot Warrior. I will probably play my Paladin, maybe two of my Paladins, or maybe all three. I'll play a DK, an Ellie Shaman, and a Rogue. So those will probably be my 6.
Oh, nice.
Because Rogue gets
DK.
Rogue gets real. Yeah.
You gotta take advantage of the OP-ness here. You know?
Yeah, they're also very easy to get up, and they're very very strong in PvE and PvP. And the difference between gearing them for PvE, different specs isn't that large, from my recollection. So like gearing them and then having to tank isn't that bad. But I do find their specs to be a little bit uniform. Like they kind of feel the same between all of them. They just do slightly different things.
Both overpowered to different levels.
They're all overpowered. Yes, they're all overpowered at different points in time too.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we get here. I know Rogue is incredibly good. Like you start assassination, and everybody's asking me like, "Oh, do we get to move away from combat?" Yeah. You pretty much get to move away from combat until later on in it. From what I remember, I know we're getting like the last iteration of the talents and stuff, but yeah, because assassination Rogue gets a point where they're like, Envenom refreshes 5-point slice and dice. So you literally never have to slice and dice again after the start of the fight. You just keep up rupture. You never have to expose, because imp expose gets changed to energy reduction on expose instead of increase on the armor. So you don't have to imp expose. You get to slice and dice one time, and it's up forever. You just get to envenom, rupture, and just keep those up constantly. And then every crit gives you 2 energy. So like when you use daggers, you're just like 2 energy, 2 energy, 2 energy, and you're just constantly getting energy. So it gets to compete a little bit with combat potency. And then I think at the very end of the game, you go back to combat. So there'll be a little bit of change of pace there.
Yeah. And we have Phantom Knives.
Shaman.
Rogues have Phantom Knives. So finally, if there's more than one target, we don't suck.
You actually are incredible. Phantom Knives is apparently like incredibly good.
Yeah.
It just becomes a lot more fun. The talents get mixed up a bunch, which rogues really haven't had a lot of experience or luck with, right? Like opportunity becomes like a 2-point talent and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really nice things in there that I appreciate. Also tricks. Everybody loves tricks of the trade. So multiple rogues are in raids, because what ends up happening is like you take less shamans because shaman buffs are now raid wide. So you don't even like bring an Ellie shaman to 25 mans. You bring them in 10 mans and they're really good, but 25 mans they're meh. So you bring less shamans. Everybody gets lust in the entire raid from one shaman. And they get all the totems and stuff too. So you bring like 2 shamans to 25 mans, but that frees up more spots for DKs, for rogues, for classes that are going to deal damage, mages, right? Fury warriors eventually at the end. But the thing about rogues is rogues have an ability that gives somebody else extra percentage damage. You basically like death wish another person. And what ends up happening, at least on private servers, is rogues just do it to each other. So the rogues just trade them between each other. They're like, I'll tricks you and you tricks me. And they just keep tricksing each other. So they keep giving each other extra damage. Or you give it to a Death Knight who has Hysteria, which is a like personal steroid as well. And that's why DKs and rogues are good, because they don't have like raid-wide buffs that are overlapped or anything like that. So like bringing like 2 shamans, they can't all lust, right?
Yeah.
But bringing 2 rogues, they can tricks each other. It's the same thing with like Death Knights when they spec Hysteria, which gives you extra damage. So you can bring multiple Death Knights, multiple rogues, and those are usually the DPS classes that people are able to stack without like really caring. So rogues will come back. But like I said, I'll also play my Ellie Shaman in PvP. I think Ellie Shaman becomes one of the best PvP classes. They actually become really disgusting from what I was reading and seeing. Basically every weakness an Ellie Shaman has right now, because Ellie Shamans are really bad, right? They're really bad in PvP. You basically play them in 5s, and even then you're kind of capped because almost every team that has a warlock will tongues you, and you don't get to do much, and then it's just really bad, right?
Yeah.
It's just really bad.
Yeah.
So you end up in this situation where you're just like, I can't twos with anything except for like maybe a mage and cheese. I can't really threes with anything that wants to threes with me, because if I play like with a lot, when I play LSD like Lock Shaman Druid, they're just like, why don't we play WLD or RLD? Why are we playing with a shaman? Like, it makes a lot of sense to me where I'm just like, okay, I get it. But yeah, Menarch mentioned Thunderstorm. It's weird because like elemental shamans, people focus on Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm's like a 45 second cooldown AoE knockback. That's great, right? That's actually like one of the things that's nice. But shaman's Earthbind Totem roots now, so they have an AoE root on a really low cooldown. They have no spell pushback anymore. They have 2 spell trees with fire now, so if they get locked out of frost or locked out of nature, they can use fire. Flame Shock is not on the same cooldown as their Interrupt, which is now Wind Shear, which is, I believe, off GCD. So they can Flame Shock and not have to worry about like Earth Shocking or something, right? Or using their Interrupt. If somebody cleanses their Flame Shock, they get 30% increased haste. If somebody doesn't cleanse their Flame Shock, Lava Burst is 100% crit chance against somebody who has Flame Shock on it. And I didn't even mention the best thing about them, is they get a talent that if they get stunned, feared, or CC'd, they take 30% reduced damage for the entire duration of it, and this has no cooldown. So during Cheap Shot, Kidney Shot, they have 9 seconds, even 10 if it's 4 and 6, 10 seconds of 30% damage reduction. They're literally tankier than an SL Warlock who has 20%. They're 10% better than that, and they have a shield and they're wearing mail armor. Like, Ellie Shamans become so fucking hard to kill, it actually becomes ridiculous. They have tons of peel, they have tons of roots, they have no spell pushback. It's really hard to counter them because even if you interrupt them, they have a second spell to cast now, and then they just are impossible to kill with all their armor, and then the talent that makes it so when they're CC'd, they take almost no damage. So they're basically like mini shield walled like all the fucking time.
Yeah, it's a lot different from classic TBC now, where like you see a shaman, you just start laughing because you know he's not gonna cast anything.
He's not gonna cast. He's not gonna be able to cast.
Like literally, anytime I run into a shaman team, you just set up like, okay, I'll get the first cast, you get the second one, you will get the third one, and then he'll never cast anything, and we're good.
Yeah, and if you ever put tongues on him, you're just like, oh. Yeah. So yeah, LSD becomes like one of the best compositions in the whole game. Basically, what rogues are right now, Ellie Shamans basically become like that, where in 2s you can pair them with almost anything. Because like rogue literally works with any class in the game in 2s except for warrior, right? Like you could play rogue hunter if you really wanted to. I played that. Rogue priest, rogue warlock, rogue mage, rogue paladin, I guess, is the other one that
I have seen that like twice. I think it's actually it's very niche.
In Wrath, in Wrath you play that. It's called the Scooby Doo comp because it's Ret Rogue. So the Ret Rogue Raggy. It's a fun comp. But yeah, I will probably play Wrath a little bit. I just really hope they just don't. I just hope the cadence is not what it was.
Yeah,
because my problem with
Naxxramas and
like Nax came out and it was just, I had already played it, so I wasn't like, I think like only a third of the population at the time when Nax came out in Wrath had actually played original Nax, and even less than that had played it all the way through. So for me, Nax was not that exciting. So I was kind of like, okay. And then Old War came out, and that was really fun. But then my guild was really bad because my other guild had basically just like gotten done with the game. My like good guild from TBC and Classic, they were basically done with the game because Nax was not entertaining for us because we had already done that stuff. So we lost a lot of people. There was drama at the time. Shit happened. People wanted to reroll DKs, and basically everybody wanted to reroll DK. Like legitimately everybody. And then it just ended up in this place where like we couldn't really do Old War effectively. And and then the different sizes of the raids, where it was like 10 man, 25 man, was a little awkward for us later on, because 10 and 25 doesn't really line up perfectly, because then you have 5 people who have to go find a, like, because the thing is, like, you take your 2 10-mans, they make your 20 people, the other 5 you got to get somewhere else. So if you're running 3 raids, 5 people are benched from the big raid. So I think it'll be a little easier now, where like you'll have 3 raids, it'll be 10 10 and then 5, but the other 5 will be people's alts from the other 2, right? Or you could probably basically you'll have 25 people and you'll all have alts, so you'll probably run 2 raids and you'll probably run like 5 of the 10-mans. Jesus. But yeah, so Old War was fun, but I didn't get to do almost all of it. And then Trial of the Grand Crusader came out, and that was not fun. And that, like, I understand from a lore perspective, it was like cool, and there were some interesting fights in there, like the arena battle, but I just didn't have fun, and that's when I quit the game. And it took so long for ICC to come out, from my recollection. I remember it. Oh god, I for some reason I really don't like the 5-mans in Wrath. I don't like the instances in Wrath. I don't know what it is. There's just something that changes feeling wise in Wrath of the Lich King. I don't know if I just don't like the like the Nordic enemies. I don't know what it is. Like I forget what they're called. But like basically the Valkyries and stuff. I don't know. It just didn't. This was the first time where I was fighting things in the game, and I was like, I don't really know where these are placed inside of like lore and stuff, and these don't come from like Warcraft 3 really. I don't remember these Valkyries anywhere, or these like undead like Norse people. I actually think that Trial of the Grand Crusader was the first time that Blizzard released a raid that I really didn't like. Because like I've liked every 25 or 40 man before then. Like I liked Molten Core at the time, loved Blackwing Lair. I actually really like AQ. Some people disagree with me on this. I really like AQ. I fucking love Nax first time around. Then Grolmak, Theoden, and Ani don't really count in my opinion. Karazhan I actually liked. Then SSCTK I liked. BT Hyjal, I actually liked Hyjal at the time. And then I loved Sunwell. And then when we went to Wrath, I was kind of like, okay, this is the same thing over again. And then I was like, Old War's really good. And then it was just a huge dip with Trial of the Grand Crusader. And that was where I like actually had a time to fall out of love with the game.
Yeah,
and
well, that's when a lot of people were kind of dropping out anyway, like around that timeline. I'm so torn on how much I want to play Wrath, because rogues are actually kind of like good again. I don't know how much time I have to dedicate to going full ham at Wrath, which is usually how I like to play games. So I'm just taking it as it goes and seeing. But I think rogues do Shadow Dance stuff, right? If I remember, Wrath is Shadow Dance era for PvP and such.
Yeah, for PvP, you still go full subtlety. Wrath is like what a lot of people consider, at least a lot of the old guard, consider like the best era of old school WoW PvP in arenas. This is like the Orange Marmalade decade and stuff like that, or not decade, era of like Orange Marmalade and those comebacks. Rogue Mage Priest is still one of the top comps, and then LSD is there too. So a lot of things change, but a lot stays the same. Yeah. I think a lot of the top comps are very similar, and then a lot of the middle comps become way more cleave heavy, with like beast cleave and like the stuff where you have like enhancement shamans can be better, elemental shamans can be better. So they shore up a lot of weaknesses of like PvP classes that sucked. The thing I'm not looking forward to is prot warriors are actually really good in PvP. There probably won't be a lot of prot warriors just in general, because they aren't very good, but they're very good in PvP. They're the best out of the protection specs, minus like prot paladin as a healer. So we will see.
But I mean, speaking of TBC though, we got ZA coming out in probably usually a month, right? Usually that's the estimate. People see it comes on PTR, then a month later it comes up on live. Mm-hmm. Have you had a chance to do ZA yet?
No, I haven't had a chance to do ZA, but I saw like, I think Laddie went in and got bear on first try. So like they were able to do the time chest and everything.
Oh yeah.
without
I saw
knowing anything
Tetsu
about
that
it
as well.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's going to be very, very easy to do ZA all the way through. People are way better, way better now than they were before. So, I mean, that just shows by how quickly things die in comparison to back then. So, yeah, if you look up the strategies one time, you'll understand all the bosses, and then you'll be able to do ZA.
Yeah, because I mean, for people that have never done it before, it's pretty much just like ZG. It's easier, a lot easier. So once you've done it once, you got it.
And when people were doing ZA, they didn't have like war glaives. They didn't have full bis, right, from like this phase. Back in the day, you had very little time to like farm Illidan before you got to ZA. A lot of guilds hadn't like killed him even. So ZA was good for like catch up.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice like side grade stuff in this ZA tier. Like for example, rogues have the boots. They have the there's the back from badge. Some of the badge gear is actually even good as well for the next phase. Yeah. So there's a lot of nice catch up side grade stuff if you didn't pick up gear from Black Temple, Hydro, and such.
Yeah, if you're somebody who has a lot of badges lying around or didn't spend them on Primal Nethers, there might be some pieces in there. There's some good catch up gear. Like you said, the boots I think are second bis behind the Shadow Prowlers. The badge cloak is good for warriors, so I think almost every warrior is going to want the Dory's Embrace.
Yeah, it's really good for PvP rogues as well. The Dory's Embrace.
Yeah, that's actually true. Because it has resilience on it. It's actually like an okay cloak. Then the one I'm not sure about is there's a lot of haste gear for mages, but I'm not sure if they're going to pick it all up. They might pick it up for trash, but we'll see. So
that chat's got a good idea here coming in. Why don't we advertise the podcast in trade chat?
I don't think you're allowed to.
I don't think you're allowed to. I think you get banned.
You're not allowed to do that in trade chat.
I think you can do it in World or something. That there's like
there was one where I think. Yeah, there was like one where you get banned in it, and the other one you don't. I think it might have been World if you get banned in, but.
I have to ask Chan. Chan will know since he advertises his boosting services all the time. He'll know where
you can your Twitch. I think it's one of the ones that's not like a standard channel like Trade or LFG.
Yeah. So. They banned ads. Yeah, Beatty's saying they banned ads in like some of the channels. So you gotta be careful there about spamming and getting banned.
Yeah. If you guys have burners, just do it for us. Okay?
Yeah. Exactly.
No.
We would never encourage you guys to do that sort of thing. Wink.
Yeah. Yep. Oh boy, but yeah, in ZA, there's like a lot of things. One of the ones I'm interested in is there's the elemental shaman totem that has like a chance to give you 100 haste for 10 seconds, and it's supposed to have like a 15% proc chance. But it competes against 85 chain lightning and lightning bolt damage at all times versus chance to get 100 haste. So I don't know if it's going to be a haste totem for them or not, but it could be good.
Yeah,
could be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a little bit of a change. Although I feel after a couple of weeks you're going to be very tired of ZA already. I think people are going to burn out on that pretty quickly. But it's nice to have new stuff at least. And I did see, Zirene, you've been doing a little bit of the double glaive pumping. I tuned into your glaive raids on your rogue and noticed that even after dying on multiple bosses, you were still like at the top for boss damage.
Yeah, it's glaives feel like easy mode. You do the same thing, but you just do it better, right? It doesn't really change your pattern. But you do have to dump energy a little bit more. I think I overcap energy more frequently now because I can't do the whole store energy. Yeah. I just have to like expose again early. I have to like slice and dice again earlier. So it does mess up my rotation every now and then if I try to like greed and if I try to greed and like look for another or try to max energy before I use my because I'm like,
it's a very classic rogue problem. It's a very classic rogue problem because like I feel like the rogues that start in TBC do that less. But if you came in from classic, you have the habit of like wanting to store energy to get that optimal usage and everything.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, Slice and Dice has 5 seconds left on it. Why would I refresh it 5 seconds early when I'm at 20 energy?
Yeah.
So I like wait like a few ticks, or like if I'm at 40 energy, I'll just wait a few ticks, and then I'll get like a tick, and then I'll get like 2 energy procs, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh fuck. So yeah, not trying not to waste any combo points or anything like that, and then you dump energy afterwards. It works out well sometimes, other times no, but it does feel very easy to be in the top 2, top 3 in damage. Granted, my guild is not like giga try hard like the hunters, or like super like the omega pumpers or anything like that. They're good players, but they're not like 99th percentile hunters or anything like that.
My raid lead actually messaged me after watching your raid, and he's like, "Hey, why? How's this rogue doing so much damage?" And then like a couple minutes later, I get another message. Oh, he's got both glaives. He thought you only had one glaive, and then he noticed the second glaive later, and that explained a lot to him. A lot of a lot of explanations to be made there. But rogues are starting to feel pretty nice actually. Like even without the glaives in BT at least, once you get like your 4 set going, you get a decent amount of upgrades. It actually feels pretty nice to play rogue in BT. Like I'm not useless. Whereas in Hydro, that's a whole nother issue. But in BT at least it feels nice.
Yeah, you definitely hit really hard. One thing that I'm curious about. We know like what rogues look like with double glaives, right? What warriors look like with double glaive, because like Fienzi has them, I believe.
Fienzi does have them.
And there's like some Chinese guy who has them too. So it's I want to see like more warriors with them and watch that, because I want to see what their rage generation looks like when it procs, or like how much damage they're doing. Because it doesn't, I don't know, it looks weird when I look at like boss fight damage and stuff like that, because it's just so hard to judge, because I just don't know who's popping what and who's not. Because then I look at like top 10, when I look at like the rogue top 10, it's like almost everybody has double glaives now, right? Like in order to like be a top 10, you have to have like double glaives or something. And you look at the warrior top 10 and like 2 of them have it. So I don't know if it's more of like it's a bigger DPS increase for rogues, or if it's something where it's like warriors just don't like they just based more on like if they're popping wreck, or if they're waiting for wreck, or 2 wrecks and shit like that. And so
Jesus, Fienzi, I didn't realize Fienzi was this good actually. So for people that don't know, Fienzi is he used to be a rogue in Progress in Classic. Now he plays warrior in TBC. But he's got double glaives. He's got madness, badge, cursed vision. He's pretty good on the gear. It seems.
Madness seems really good. Madness uptime is incredible.
Yeah. So I'm speaking of the high passes. Let's talk about the old hunter shenanigans. The hunters getting into it. So for people that don't know, who haven't seen, maybe you've been living under a rock. This is the stuff that broke hunters for a little while. So this all came from Veramos, by the way, for people who want to know. Veramos is one of the hunter Discord mods. Basically, he broke this, and basically people in China were sending this to him and asking him to please fix it, basically, because it was running rampant in China apparently. So I'll play you guys the clip so you guys can see. But basically, hunters were using auto hotkey programs, and the way it works is the auto hotkey program would read a pixel on your screen, and based on what you did with macros in the game, you can make a color display, and your macro would read things, and you basically just spam one button, and it would do the perfect rotation in and out, weaving in melee hits and such for you automatically, and all you're pressing is just spamming one button, basically. So it is basically automation with one button to add in melee hunter weaving perfectly. And for people that don't know, with hunters, melee weaving actually adds a lot of damage if it's done like absolutely perfectly. But the reason a lot of hunters don't do that is because it's actually kind of hard to do that perfectly in the middle of your rotations, particularly on certain bosses and such. It's actually very technically hard to do perfect melee weaving. Despite what the hunters told me in phase 1, where every hunter would be melee weaving. You guys are filthy liars. But now we see the effect of melee weaving if it's done perfectly by a computer program, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, just the literal like and like just one pixel forward, and then 1 pixel back, dude. It actually is. It's inhumanly accurate.
yeah. So basically, a lot of hunters were doing this in China. Basically, a lot of hunters were doing it in China. And then the question got raised. People were asking, I don't know why, but a lot of people were asking if in Classic it would be bannable. And absolutely, I can tell you without doubt, it is bannable in Classic. Do not do this in Classic. There's no question. Because Blizzard, by the way, has already been banning people in China. For people that don't know, a ban wave already went out in China. You will get banned, so do not do this. They banned people in China. Ban wave went out recently, and I would expect that you also get banned in Classic for doing it now in NA because it's very noticeable. Blizzard can see what other programs you're using and such based on the client and such, so they can see that you have auto hotkey running, and they will ban you for using it. And for people that aren't sure, you have to remember that they did the policy update a while ago, where they basically said that anything that auto inputs commands into the game, they don't want that, basically. They want you to be actually playing the game. So definitely do not do this, guys. Do not do it. It will get you banned. But it was interesting watching all of that happen because, Verimo showed the PMs he got from Chinese server players and such who basically showed the macros and how it worked and everything. And there was a lot of Chinese hunters trying to get it banned by making it known how it worked and such. I have heard though there's mixed results in that the person who behind it was trying to make it so that it's less detectable and all of this, but that's just the way it always goes with people trying to get around the system. They're trying to make it less detectable and get around the cheat detection and such. But yeah, the logs have already been removed from Warcraft logs, by the way. If you get caught using it, Warcraft logs will just remove your log completely. So yeah, if you try to do this, don't. But yeah, any experiences with the auto hotkey stuff, Zirene?
No, I have no experiences with it. I just know that like one of the dudes in my guild just melee weaves already and doesn't use it. So I don't know where he places them like overall. He's got like number 8s and like 10s on some fights. So
yeah, the melee weaving is definitely strong. It's just so hard
melee
to
weaving
do.
is definitely good. It's definitely good, but not on every fight.
yeah, not into this level of accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah, it's but yeah, thankfully that's all pretty much gone. Don't do it, guys. Basically is the thing. You will get banned. So don't do it. I know that there were some people talking about how in retail it's okay to use it because a lot of retail raiders and such actually use auto hotkey to make the game more easier to play with a lot of spammable stuff. But I think Blizzard tends to treat retail and classic a little bit differently in that regard. And also the usage is very, very different versus just one button rotation on the hunter and classic. Especially after they did the multi-box shenanigans to stop people from multi-boxing multiple characters with one button inputs and things like that. They've really cracked down on that a lot more.
I think it's kind of a little bit reminiscent of how it was back in the day where they didn't like these types of things. But retail, like you said, very, very different. So.
Yeah. It is
hopefully it gets banned or like at least heavily dissuaded, like you said. So
in China it's already getting banned, so I would assume if you're doing this in NA, you're gonna get hit eventually as well. Yeah. But this guy kind of tied down into even more shenanigans. We got the log editing era of shenanigans as well, which is been going on. So
okay, explain this to me because I don't know about this.
Oh, okay. So oh man, this is a long story. So basically, for people that don't know, a whole bunch of shenanigans have been happening with log editing in since the start of Classic. People have been able to edit logs on Warcraft logs, right? If you go to Warcraft logs and you see like the top pass and such, you've always been able to cheat and edit there. Although it's always been like something that's not too hard to detect because most people don't do the log editing perfectly because you need to make the logs look right with like the damage coming in, the damage going out, and all of that sort of stuff. But outside of the people that were doing that and cheating here and there, it was pretty minimal, right? Like Zirene says, most people don't know about log editing for the most part, or they don't care because it's a fairly minor thing. But in the last week or two, basically, someone made a public log editing tool. I do know who made it, and I did talk to the creator of this tool as well. And basically, what the tool does is that you literally just upload a log, and it will fix your RNG to be better. So it'll increase it as if, oh, he just crit more. And it'll just cheese your damage. So if you want to like add 50 DPS to your pass or something like that, it would make it look like you just got a little bit better RNG, and it would take away damage from someone else and give it to you basically to make all the equations match up in the log. And that's how it does it. It takes damage to someone else and gives it to you by just changing the RNG and how it looks on the logs. Which I honestly, the idea is really funny, right? Like everyone, I laughed at it when I heard it the first time. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. You're taking damage away from someone and giving it to yourself. But on the bigger end of things, like when you think about the actual impact of something like that gets spread like this, it's like not great. So when I heard about this going down at first, like a bunch of us were talking about it, and because the creator was talking there as well, and we were talking about it, and I said, okay, like this is hilarious, but please don't like spread this, because this is gonna cause a lot of issues if you guys spread this. Beyond the joke, the joke's really funny, but let's not spread this.
Not joke, right?
Yeah.
Wait, but why did he make it?
Okay, so I talked to the creator of it to find his reasonings behind, like, okay, like why are you actually making this? What is the reason? Is it just a joke? Because I came down pretty hard on them. I said, like, because everyone was laughing about it, I said, like, look guys, it's funny, but this is gonna cause a lot of bigger issues. I don't think we should be like spreading this tool. I don't think we should, like, before news of all this stuff broke, I didn't even want to make a video or even cover it on the podcast because it was kind of very low key. Most people didn't know about it. It was being spammed in some discords and like Fight Club and a bunch of other discords. But for the most part, people looked at it, thought it was funny, and then moved on. So like the general public had no idea that all of this stuff was going down, and a lot of them still don't know about this stuff. But then I talked to the creator in the last week just to understand, because there was kind of like two schools of thought from the people that saw this go down at the start, because people know about it now because a lot of videos have been made about all of the shenanigans in the last week or two, but it was actually already available for a little bit before it broke to the public. And when I talked to him, he basically said his reasoning is that he wants to do white hat hacking to force the Warcraft log system to change, in that he doesn't like that passes are so dependent on RNG, and he doesn't like that people are so caring about passes in like 99s and such in the first place. And so his idea, and why he wants to make this widespread and make this undetectable, is that he wants to break the entire system and force them to either add in something that calculates the value of RNG to like basically remove the RNG of passing, or he wants to force a rework or them to remove the passing meta, I guess you could call it, because he doesn't like that passing gets a little bit carried away at the top end sometimes. So that was his reasoning. I don't necessarily agree with them in a lot of ways. But that is his reasoning. He wants to force the hand of Warcraft logs to make these changes, basically. And his idea is that if he just breaks all the logs and makes it so that you can't tell what is going on with the logs, or who's cheating, or who's like editing the logs and such, then they have to address the RNG issue of logs. So that's his reasoning, at least. So there you go, Zirene. That's the kind of like the 101 to how this came about.
Wow. So he's like on a crusade or a mission. That's so interesting, because like I'm not sure how he's really going to accomplish that with what he's doing, because if anything, like if he's trying to remove the RNG from it, then it ultimately just becomes about excuse me, whose rotation is better, and then people will just mimic that, and then it's just going to come down to either latency or inputs, or if the boss moves. Like, it's just going to come down to smaller things like that. And if he cares about like the top level, I don't know how it's ever going to even out and be like, because I did my rotation perfectly, I didn't waste any energy. I got lucky with another combo point on this eviscerate, procking a combo point, or I 1 point slice and diced and it gave me my 25 energy back from relentless strikes. Like, RNG is built into the game. Like, removing RNG is, one, incredibly difficult. Two, it's going to have a lot to do with what's going on in the game as well. And if you're trying to reward perfect play with parses instead of like RNG, then I think it makes it muddier, in my opinion. I think it makes it less fun, because people, even though they don't always admit it, RNG for the average player is part of the fun of a video game. It's the reason that games that are like a little more RNG intensive can sometimes get really popular, like Hearthstone at the start. Fortnite is actually a pretty good example, because there wasn't like a spray to the guns like in CS:GO. The spray of your weapon is scripted, and people learn the spray and they control it. Whereas in Fortnite, there was random bloom. So when you would shoot and continue shooting, the bloom of your gun would actually become truly random, which gave people like a chance if they ran into one of the best Fortnite players in the world, right? If you ran into him in like melee, you actually had the chance to beat him. Whereas CS:GO, you don't really have a chance to beat somebody who's a pro, because they actually understand their weapon. So RNG for the average player is something that is good for them. Whereas RNG for like the top level players is frustrating. So that's why like people liked competitive Hearthstone until it became too RNG in their mind at the end of it, where people were like, tournaments are now decided by coin flips, which is, it's fun in the average game, because it adds variance, it adds variety to, you can play the same deck every game against the same deck every game, and it will play out differently. But it doesn't mean that the truly best player will win the tournament. No. So RNG to some extent is good for a video game in the medium level, but at the highest level, sure, I understand that it's bad and it's frustrating. But I think if you frustrate the average player when it comes to logs, then it's just going to make them not want to care about it anymore. And then it ruins a part of people's enjoyment in the rating meta.
Yeah, see, that's why I wasn't really a fan of this approach. I actually, I think all of us can agree that like the idea that the top end of passes sometimes gets a little bit cringy, a little bit RNG based and such. But I really didn't like that it was making it worse for like other people in order to try to address and force them to do this thing. Because it's interesting, because in a lot of ways this is a player created problem that is being signal boosted by players and content creators and causing the problem by themselves in a lot of ways. So like the original problem is that a small percentage of people are cheating on Warcraft logs, and RNG is such a big part of the top end of the logs. But then to fix it, he introduces this cheating system to try to break all of them and force this change. But the interesting thing is, when I was looking at the reaction to it, is that for the first few days when this was being spammed everywhere, and we got Felipe here, who's a mod in the Mage Discord as well, is that people were interested in it, but the general public still wasn't that interested in it. It was like one of those things where people want to look it up and it was funny, but it wasn't widespread enough where there was enough edited logs and such that would actually become like a major problem or something with the validity of logs and all of that. And it wasn't until like these videos came out that kind of signal boosted the problem and made it into as if it was a big problem, that it became a bigger problem. Which is why I was really annoyed with content creators using this as for the views and pretending it's a big problem when it's not a big problem yet until the video comes out. But the other part of this is that I don't know if it actually can or if they should even address it in a lot of ways. If this problem could stay widespread even with that, because I think the general public just doesn't care. Like you said, the general public just wants to use logs to compete within the guild, to look at the passes and such. I don't think the general public cares about log editing, or the top end, the Landos of the world who might be having issues if this becomes like a widespread tool that a lot of people are using. And even if it does become widespread, I don't think it's going to be widespread for long enough that it matters. Like people will meme with it for a couple of weeks and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, no one really cares about using the tool anymore. It was funny, but you need a certain percentage of logs edited to even have an effect on the overall like 99s, 100s and such. If anything, the only people affected by the actual changes that people will be scuffing up with this tool, assuming it's undetectable, of course, which is a whole different thing, is the people going for 100s, because there'll be you can do minute changes to DPS and really scuff up the 100 kind of ratings as far as what's required for 100. But the entire thing with passing, whether it's a problem or not, I feel like it's actually, in a lot of ways, passing is actually a good thing. Like whether you like it or not, having that competitive element in the game, giving people something that they can do to try to compete with their guildies, to compete with other people. Sure, it gets cringe sometimes at the top end, like with stacking 5,000 chickens and all that nonsense. But the average player isn't doing that. They're looking for that competitive element, and it's something that keeps people engaged in playing a game. Because if they don't have something they're aiming for every week or something that they can compete with, it really takes away something from a lot of players, and then they're just raiding to raid, and it's not as fun. Like you're taking something away from those players. So in a lot of ways, I don't even think passing is a problem to solve in the first place. And then there's the entire question of should Warcraft logs and Blizzard even step in? Like I said, like will this even be a tool that is widespread and used by people for more than a couple of weeks? I don't even know if people will care in a couple of weeks, and it'll just go back to normal. I think the idea, from talking to the creator of all this, the hope is that it forces Warcraft logs to do something about it, or if Warcraft logs doesn't do something about it, Blizzard can step in and validate passes. They can add something that would validate passes so that Warcraft logs can then validate, okay, this is a legit pass, a legit log, and then you're good to go. So those are kind of like the two ways the situation could be resolved, and this tool cannot be used anymore. But whether those things will actually happen, I just don't even have faith that those things will even happen. Because like Warcraft logs could ignore the issue for a couple of weeks. I don't know whether they will or whether it'll do something, but they could ignore it for a couple of weeks and no one will care. Again, probably the general public won't care anymore about the issue. And Blizzard could step in, but it's kind of like 50-50. I know Blizzard has a good relationship with Warcraft logs and they've made changes in the past, but there's no guarantee that they'll act quickly on this. For all we know, even if they wanted to step in and help Warcraft logs validate passes, they might do it in 6 months. It might take them that long to get to the list. I was like, oh yeah, that was a problem. We'll add in a validation tool or a validation key into the logging to fix this. So I just feel like, man, the potential good versus bad outcomes is that if those things don't happen, all you're left with is a tool that is increasing the amount of fake logs, and you don't get a good solution. Like there's no guarantee you get the good solution. The bad solution is just that you just made logs and passes worse for everyone, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it can ruin the whole thing for people, right?
Yeah,
and then people will get frustrated and not want to interact with it. And if it's like a fixable problem, because like here's the thing too, right? Is to some degree there will always be RNG in all the logs, no matter what. If it's crits, if it's procs, did I get a Quag's Eye? Did I get my procs right on internal cooldown? And here's the other element of it besides combat is did I have glaives drop in my raid? Right? Am I a glaive rogue now? Right? There's always going to be some element of RNG to the logs that I'm just like, how are you going to do this? Because like I don't know what his ultimate goal is going to look like and what he wants evaluated. Is it just going to be like an evaluation of what your rotation is? Because that still changes too, especially for rogues, where we have 2 abilities that have to proc and can change if we're lucky or not. And then offhand procs and shit, like
yeah. Well, talking to the owner, he was saying one of his ideas or what he would like to see would be something like even just a column that's out of 100 and says, "Oh, this you got 72 out of 100 lucky," or something like that. That was what one of the things he said, where Warcraft logs could look at all the RNG in the log and then say like, "Okay, this is 72% lucky," I guess.
Oh, I parsed a 100 in luck.
Yeah, yeah, like things like that. And I just thought it was very unrealistic because like a lot of the times I feel like he's approaching this as if Warcraft logs is Amazon or something. It's like this big business that can just be like, okay, well, this guy's white hacking us. We'll just put some employees on this and okay, yeah, fair enough, we'll fix this or we'll do this and that. But Warcraft logs is a small business. It's a small team, a small business. They don't necessarily have all the manpower to put in everything that everyone wants. And in a lot of ways, I mean, we've seen that Warcraft logs hasn't added in filters for multiple lusts and things like that already. They display the number of lusts, but they don't filter out things like multiple lusts and all of that in a lot of ways. They just show the amount of buffs and things that you get. So hoping that they're going to do this way bigger thing when they're not even doing the smaller things like filtering lusts and chickens and all of that previously is kind of crazy to think that they're actually going to do this. And that's why I was really upset when I was talking to the guys doing this and I was saying, man, Warcraft logs, like all you're doing is you're creating a headache for the poor guy who works at Warcraft logs who's going to wake up and think, man, I got to fix this somehow. People are breaking this cool tool that you're providing to the World of Warcraft community, and you're just breaking it just for like your own personal vendetta against whatever this is. And I was really not happy with that because I don't know, as someone who's had to hire people in the past as a small business and such, I know these guys don't have crazy amounts of resources and time. They're just, they're trying to make ends meet and provide a good service with the people that they have. They don't necessarily they're not Amazon guys, and that's what frustrated me about the whole thing. But yeah, that's my rant anyway. So yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with this. Honestly, I expected either nothing's gonna happen, and then everything just continues in a couple of weeks when people forget about this, as the internet does, and log editing just becomes a meme that gets passed down for the rest of the time. Or, I mean, there is the chance that Blizzard does step in and put in a validation pixel or something like that. But we have no idea whether that will happen. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see if these things happen. But yeah, and anything else to add on this, Zirene, before we go to the next thing?
No, not really. I just don't think it's the right move, but yeah, like you said, I'm now worried. I'm just worried that it's going to cause an issue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If anything, the people that will be in the scuffed area will be people at like that high 99, 100 area. And then the thing is, I did talk to people who looked at the actual tool to see, okay, is this actually undetectable? Because the only problem is if it's undetectable. If it's actually detectable, then everyone editing their logs are going to just be screwing themselves because Warcraft logs is going to ban them from logging. Basically, but if it's undetectable, then you can add 50 DPS here, 20 DPS there, and it makes it kind of scuffed in that higher end of logging. But yeah, I guess we'll just see. But from talking to people, whether it's detectable or not, right now it does seem to be detectable in some ways. People had a look at how it was editing logs, and there were like patterns and things that you could pick up on. But the creator, last I heard, was working on making it more undetectable. So I don't know if they're going to fix it. Some people brought the idea of adding live logging, but the tool itself is really easy to adapt to make it work for live logging as well. Because at the end of the day, logs are just text files. So you can edit a tool to work with live logging as well. So even putting in live logging wouldn't fix the issue. But one of my fears is also that instead of a fix, they just end up making logging more of a pain in the butt. And Warcraft logs just has like other things you have to tick in order to be able to upload logs or to be able to like have logs validated by them and such. It could end up as well where logging just becomes more of a hassle than it is now because Warcraft logs wants to make sure people logging are like not cheating. So yeah, but in other news, Zirene, there was a PvP tourney. There was a little PvP tourney. A fun tourney. I did really enjoy it. By the way, did you watch much of the tourney, or did you just watch a
I
VOD?
watched I watched I watched a decent amount of it. I didn't watch all of it,
Yeah.
but I saw like that it was a lot of there were like some double healer comps at the start, and then it started to filter out to more rogue mage priest. So
Yeah. So for people that don't know, there was a PvP tourney. Blizzard actually did a very good thing, which is they put it on Twitch as well. Because when they would put all their tourneys on YouTube in the past, it was not a good idea because barely anyone watched it on YouTube. The views were very, very low. Like 1,000 or something sometimes. It was really tiny, the views on the YouTube streams. But on Twitch, they actually got like into the multiple thousands. Like I think I saw like 5 to 10,000 or something at one point, which is good for World of Warcraft 20. At least they had people watching it. But basically, it was just Mia Chan and Poike destroying EU, and then Snuts, Floormat, and Tiki destroying NA. and that was basically the thing. At one point, I think Snuts, Floormat, and Tiki weren't even playing the final comp. They were messing around with Shadow Priest instead of having a normal priest in Rogue Mage Priest. So they were definitely easing their way through the bracket there. But I mean, it's not really that surprising that those guys win because some of these guys are literally the best player at their class, way ahead of everyone else on the character. Especially the EU team. Mia, Chan, and Poike are literally the 3 people a lot of people would pick as, oh yeah, these guys are like the best players in TBC at their class in a lot of, arguably, in a lot of ways. So it wasn't even a challenge in a lot of ways. Until they got to the finals, though. I really like the finals. Did you watch the Mia Chan and Poke finals?
I don't think I watched the finals. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so I'm playing it for the stream now for people that didn't see. But basically, they didn't drop a single game until the finals, even with them kind of messing around in one of the games with putting Chan on his rogue and doing double rogue druid for one of the games. Just because the comp matched up really well. So it wasn't full meme, but it was a little bit meme to do that. But then, in the finals, they actually had a little bit of a comeback from the other team. And it was actually kind of interesting. They made it interesting, basically. But I will say, every time I watch Mia play, he's something else when it comes to being able to kite and get away in really scuff situations. Because there was the moment in some of these finals games where Mia was so close to dying, and he was just able to gouge and kite around pillars and just barely survive long enough. Because the strategy for the final teams where it's Lock Druid Rogue versus the traditional RMP is that as long as they survive the burst at periods, they're good. They just have to survive through the RMP trying to blow people up, and then they're good. And they barely got away at some points. They got a little bit greedy, and that's why they lost a couple games. With like I think Poke sat one of the CCs for a long time and didn't trinket and such, and he got just destroyed. His HP melted, but in the end, it was kind of crazy. Mia Chan and Poke just wasn't even a challenge. It felt like for them until the finals, and then the same for Snot side as well.
I have a question. Is the setup for things like there was some PvE gear that was available to my knowledge. Like you could use like the leggings of Divine Retribution. I heard like warriors using 4-piece and then the armor pen legs. Why weren't rogues allowed glaives?
A little bit too OP, I guess. There was some
Blizzard?
weird stuff though. There was some weird stuff though with there was like I believe I was told there was like a nature resist thing available on the tourney realm, and Mia's team I believe was actually scared that the other teams would use that nature resist enchant and mess with poisons and other things. So they actually, I believe Mia actually enchanted and added in some little changes to his gearing and enchanting to try to counter in case the enemy team went with that nature resist stacking. and made it a bit sneaky. But I think the interesting thing as well was that they allowed specific talent specs for each different game, for each different tourney period. And Mir, for people that don't know, was actually running a special spec, I believe. It seems, at least, it looks like he was literally running like the extra resist specs for
AoE.
some of his talents, AoE talents as well, because he resisted AoE at one point. So he was literally he was running like a specialized spec just for certain matchups at one point. But I will say, man, the client for this is not great.
Against Rogue Mage Priest, you don't need Vile Poisons. So you don't need to have chance that things get like dispelled. So you can put those points all into subtlety.
Yeah, which is what he did. He got the AoE talents. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the client though that they use for the spectator client. There's a lot of information that doesn't get displayed, and I can kind of understand that a lot of people can't see, or if you don't follow PvP, you're not sure what to track anyway. But for the people that actually PvP and they're trying to track, like, okay, what are the buffs, debuffs going on right now? There's so much information that's just actually not there. Not being able to see the buffs, debuffs, on the characters at all times was actually kind of made following the matchup and what was going on sometimes a little bit tricky, because you couldn't see the setups sometimes exactly with like what was going on with things. But I'm more surprised that Blizzard has never done anything with or hasn't improved the spectator mode. But I guess it's just never been a very high priority thing as far as PvP goes, to improve like the classic spectator mode. But I think the most interesting thing to come out of the tourney though is that Fearblaze in the chat saying that Mia was playing improved gouge as well. Because you watch Mia during the tourney, his gouges would last longer as well, which is interesting. There's actually some weird things you can do with the tick rates of some things. Like people know you can actually kidney shot and sap off a kidney shot if you get the right tick timing, because depending on your RNG with the ticks, you can actually get that out of combat thing anywhere between like 5 to 7 seconds. So technically, sometimes, it's not every time, but sometimes you'll be able to sap someone out of a kidney shot if you cancel attack as soon as you kidney shot someone with like a full kidney shot. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things like that. But yeah, I did wish that the client had a little bit more information so you could follow the matches a bit better. But I think the most interesting to come out of the tourney though was the interview. Was that let me see, do I have it here somewhere? The interview they did in the middle of it with Brian Birmingham, who is one of the classic devs. I'm not sure if he's the lead classic dev. I can't remember what his title is, but he works on classic, and he did an interview in the middle of the tourney. And they basically talked about a lot of the things that we've talked about and you've talked about and mentioned on the thing. I'm not sure. Did you see the interview at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so basically they went over things like what you've said with the quality of life changes in the arena, where they tried to make the item gearing path of arena match up with PvE pacing a lot more. Like they talked about the reasoning behind going back and making gearing in PvP faster to match up with how fast people gear up in PvE now compared to back in the day, to speed up the things. They talked about the matchmaking changes. I thought the matchmaking changes was interesting. So basically what they said is that they recognize that most players do not like the team system. And they kind of expected that in a lot of ways, because team systems lock you in with players and you're not able to play with all your friends, and it makes less people able to play with everyone else in a lot of ways. And at the end of the day, that's literally why the team system eventually disappears in later World of Warcraft expansions, is because people don't really like the team system. But it was interesting to see that they know of the issue and they are like thinking about solutions to it. I don't know when they'll actually do them though. They kind of hinted that they will address them going forward, but they didn't really say if things would change in Classic, or we would have to wait longer for Wrath, or what would happen. But they at least are aware of those issues. So it seems like the same old Blizzard, where we kind of have to just wait and see if they have the time to, or how long it takes them to actually implement the improvements. But it seems like at least the sentiment from the interview from the interview was that they at least know about the issues and they're trying to find the fixes. The timeline for that is unknown, but it seems the approach they're doing is that they want the classic diehards to get the chance to experience the way it was originally and then change it after. At least that's the way they went about with matchmaking. Now, whether they continue to do that going forward, I don't know. Honestly, I think in a lot of ways, they should just go ahead with the changes that will make an improvement for the community at the start, because sometimes it takes them 6 months to do the change, and by that time, they've lost the best period for that change to be effective. But, I mean, it was at least nice. They talked about the quality of life changes they made to the queuing system as well. So for people that don't know, they widened the range of people you could match up against in the queues, because they looked at the queue timings and said, look, people are spending more time in queues than actually playing in arena. So they widened the range. So that's why now you can match up with people a lot lower or a lot higher than you if you've been waiting in the queue for a bit. So that at least, I think a lot of arena players are actually happy about that. It is nicer that you spend less time in queue. Although it does get a bit scuffed. I will say, it does get a bit scuffed in the off hours where you queue sometimes. And because not enough people are queuing, you can be like a 1800 team running into a 1200 team sometimes, which is amusing. The range, like one game will be against 1200, then the next game will be against like 2K. The rating range at off hours gets very, very funky sometimes with these changes. But I mean, that's just a trade-off you make with widening the matchmaking rating and making sure that you're not like sitting in queue for that long. At the end of the day, I guess the only real solution is that they just make it so that more people play. That's the only way to actually really solve the queue system. Get more people into the arena.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just get it more saturated. Also means that you have more people interacting with a part of your game that is a large part of your game between raiding. So, there's raiding, there's PvE. Once everybody's like gotten all the stuff they need from it, then PvP is like another motivator, kind of like how parsing is, right? Like PvP, getting better at it and getting higher on the ladder is like another whole half of the game that a lot of people don't interact with because they feel like the barrier of entry is too high. And now I think, like I've said before, it's just better to get people to interact with it.
Yeah. Always
better.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think it's just always the important thing with Classic WoW in particular is that people stay engaged with it, and there's all these little things that keep them interested in it. And it's not that artificial Tower of Torghast engagement. It's that they actually want to be logging in and doing these things. And I'm surprised though that they didn't talk at all about at least I don't recall any talk of dual spec. Because that I think that's been one thing that everyone has really, really wanted for TBC is dual spec to enable you to PvP and PvP, PvE a lot quicker. Even though gold is a lot less of an issue these days with dailies and such added in, but still the dual spec, the convenience factor of being able to swap between PvP and PvE easily and without worrying about the extra 100 gold, even though it's like a minor thing. I think would definitely increase the rate of play, right? It'll be just something that'll get more people playing PvP at the end of the day. So I think that'd be an interesting change if they actually looked at it. But yeah, I mean, speaking of things they can do to improve the game, I thought we would have a quick look back chat at whether Zirene and me were right or wrong about certain things, in particular the boost. Because I'm not sure where... I'll see what your thoughts are first, Zirene. How do you feel about the boost now, the 58 boost? So back at the early days, we were both surprisingly proponents of the boost. We were okay with the boost being added in. So how do you feel about the boost now that we're coming up on phase 4 soon?
I think it's kind of required if you want to play. Like if you're a new player or you want to roll an alt, it's pretty much required. Like, unless you have gold to just boost all the way through.
Do you think it's a positive or negative for the game overall?
I still think it's a positive, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but I still think it's positive. If I were to interact with the game, I would just buy it, right? In that sense, like I wouldn't want to level all the way again. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this all got brought out because someone went back to one of the old videos that we made regarding boosts and such, like the one we did with Josh Corbett, that you were absent for the second half of where we were debating boosts and such with Josh Corbett, who runs another World of Warcraft podcast. And it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people still think the boosts were negative to the game in a lot of ways, but a lot of that is attributing people who quit and the issues with WoW now, the declining population, just automatically to the boost and saying like, okay, yeah, you see, like a boost came in, people still quit the game. And I think that's not the way to really look at it in a lot of ways. I think people forget to add in the benefits of the boost as well when they're considering whether it's a positive or negative for the game, right? So, for example, when people say a lot of people quit because of the boost or because they were sick of those things happening with that Blizzard was adding in, you also have to keep in mind how many people played more or stayed or are playing alts or who joined the game because of the boost. And even if a large percentage of the people that joined because of the boost quit, you're still getting an increase in the player base, an increase in the amount of people who keep playing more and such in a lot of ways on alts and all of that because of the boost. So it's kind of hard to just say that people quit because of the boost. When a lot of those people, you have to keep in mind, a lot of those people might have quit anyway. Maybe they quit a little bit faster. It's hard to say, but it can't just be attribute. You can't just attribute all the bad things in WoW now to the boost. It's got to be like a logical take at things. And then the other, so obviously I'm still someone that says the boosts were overall positive. I think, in my opinion, sure there's negatives, and one of the negatives that people like to point out is that old world leveling areas are deserted, or they were deserted earlier because of the boost. But I think in a lot of ways you can't save those. You look at any MMO, whether they have boosts or no boosts. Once you get to the late stage of a game, the leveling areas become deserted anyway. There's not you can't save that. The early areas, the leveling areas just become deserted, and with or without the boost, they still become deserted. You can't force the people, take away the boost and be like, well, now you have to level there, have fun. No, like people don't go back and say, okay, well, because there's no boost, I'm definitely going to go back and play this game that's going to take way longer for me to get to 60 or 58 now to actually start playing the game. It just doesn't work that way. You can't force people to do something just because it'd be better for the game. Like a lot of those people faced with that choice, they'll just say, I'm not going to play then. I'm going to go play Lost Ark instead, is what they'll do if they're faced with a choice. So it's always been the accessibility of WoW has been really, really important for how many people will actually play. And it gets harder and harder as an MMO to make it accessible the later you go into the game state. And the more top heavy it gets. And these things just happen naturally without or with a boost. Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah. So
good? No. But yeah, I mean that's kind of how I figured things would work, right?
Yeah.
It's solving a problem that instead of people being like, oh, I'll just level by hand and like go through that and stuff like that, and people are like, oh, it's part of the experience, is torturing yourself. It gives you that option to skip it. Whereas people weren't going, do I spend the time leveling another character or do I boost? People go, do I spend time leveling another character or do I quit the game? Or do I just not do it? Right. And the boost gives them that option that is basically in place of stopping. So yeah, I think it increases retention. I think it gives people an opportunity to get in. And I think that's always just accessibility is good. Like I think I said this from the start where it's like the more people you can get playing, the better and healthier an MMO is going to be at all times. So any system that allows you to do that is good in my book, regardless of like, I know it has a price tag on it.
Yeah. Yes.
And I know that people see it as like, oh, it's going to be something that is, it's going to be something that gives them a lot of money from this. And people don't like that. I don't have a problem with it. Like in my opinion, it's fine. So I like it and I have liked it. So
yeah, the thing is, I feel a lot of WoW players who talk about these things. A lot of the times, people are designing or thinking of the game in the way that this is the way I want the game to exist, or the state of classic that I want. But they're not really thinking about the long-term implications of the changes they want or don't want. They're kind of like, I think a lot of WoW players design the game for themselves, but not necessarily the game that they would even play themselves long term. I feel like that's sometimes a big problem when I talk to people about the topics like boosts and such. A lot of players have this idea of WoW in their head, WoW Classic, and they don't want WoW Classic to stray from that idea in their head, even if they themselves might not play in the future. And then they end up designing a game that doesn't always necessarily even work for themselves long term. They have the idea of the game that they would want, but not necessarily even the game that they would play. In a lot of cases, it's interesting because I've had some conversations, for example, with people regarding community council picking back when it came about. I go into a discussion about someone who was saying, "Oh, I should be on community council. I could. I don't like the chicken changes, or I think they should leave the chicken changes in. That's the way I want Classic to be, and I wish I was on a community council to talk about these things." And I just went back to them and said, "Look, if you want to be on community council, you should be on the community council because you want changes that are good for the long-term future of the game in a lot of ways. That's what Blizzard's trying to get with community council is changes that benefit the game not just now but long-term as well. So if you're thinking about it just for your own vision of WoW, you can't just think of WoW as like, yeah, I don't care if WoW dies. I want my version of WoW, and my version of WoW is the one that I'm gonna enjoy." Because that's not really the purpose of Blizzard trying to get feedback and figure out what the players want. They're trying to design a game that's hopefully going to last for longer than it would without that feedback. But yeah, I am happy though that I gotta say I told you so to the people that kept doubting me throughout the old EverQuest Classic references back in the day. I do have fun with that. Because I've showed people the podcast back when we did the whole thing with Josh Corbett, who's very eloquent, by the way. It's a pity that Zirene wasn't there, because I think Zirene would have added a lot more to that conversation, because I'm not as eloquent.
Yeah. I'm more of a flailer, you know.
Yeah, with the whole EverQuest thing, because so far, I think it's been pretty much point for point that, yeah, World of Warcraft has really followed the EverQuest Classic route in a lot of ways. The only thing I'm actually surprised with is that World of Warcraft hasn't followed EverQuest Classic as much as I think it could have. As much as I thought it would. I feel in a lot of ways like the drama with Blizzard in recent times and what happened there with recent drama and well, not just drama, but all the internal company things has kind of scared them away from making a lot of the changes that they I think they would have planned. Because I feel like if not for the feedback and the pushback from the community and then all the recent Blizzard stuff that came out, I feel like we would already have tokens. I feel like they've been wanting to put in tokens for a while now, and it just hasn't happened because they're scared of like pushing the community too far or getting too much bad feedback. But it feels like that they've always been on the cusp of wanting to put in those tokens.
Yeah, which I think is right to have that hesitancy, because that's how the community feels about it, right?
Yeah.
And until like you're very confident in this type of thing, and I know, like I can, I mean, I know saying is bad, but a lot of people, God, who was it? I talked to a Blizzard employee, and he basically said they should just put in the WoW token already because the community wants it. People already buy gold anyway, and they just risk getting banned for it. So he's like, the community doesn't know that they actually want the WoW token. It's already out in China, and it doesn't have any problems there. And I'm just like, I know people buy gold already. I'm just afraid of like the inflation that will happen when it's like legal to buy gold. You know, I know that the money goes to Blizzard, and that's good for them. But oh man, I don't know why this is what's coming up now. But so my friend bought boosting services in a game, and when they bought boosting services in the game, the person that they bought boosting services personally reached out to them in email later and said that because of how much he had spent on the boosting and all the other things, it actually paid for his wedding. And he sent him photos from his wedding. And he was like, I'm gonna buy boosts more often. Like he helped the guy like marry the love of his life is basically what he said. And I was like, I don't know the authenticity of this or the actual like validity of this.
Well, see, this is where Blizzard needs to step in. They gotta get the website up. They got a propaganda website up. Boosting, uniting your couples together.
Yeah, man, nothing brings couples together like boosting, dude. No, there's apparently like a guy in the Philippines who apparently was able to pay for his wedding and marry his fiance because of this guy. This guy actually is like known and stuff, but I won't mention him by name. But he definitely has money and he definitely can buy boosting services. And he bought a decent amount because he didn't want to play, and he's doing other things simultaneously. So yeah, having somebody else do it for him. I'm not saying boosts are good or positive in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that it is a business that exists out there, and if you bring everything in house, then those kind of go away. And are they businesses or like things that should exist? Probably not. But do they? Yeah, that's the reality of the situation. You know, I just think it's funny because everybody's like boost bad, buy money bad, bring it in house, give money to Blizzard, good, right? But even then, people are like, they risk just getting banned and breaking TOS. That's the biggest thing. Is it's just against their TOS in the first place.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of things is that
it just was weird hearing a Blizzard employee just be so adamant about it's just so adamant about like the WoW token is good. People don't know that they actually want it because they already buy gold, right? Like they're like a large percentage of the population already buys gold. People are doing it all the time. I know people who buy gold. I know a lot of people who buy gold and nothing ever happens to them. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, if something actually happened to all these people, like who would be left? Because I know that like prices go up on things. People don't play as much and then they have to buy consumables and shit. And people are willing to buy gold, right? That's the thing too, is people are actually willing to spend real life money on gold. So I would actually be interested to see like the traffic on websites that are gold selling websites.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the community has changed completely as well. I feel like a lot of the pushback on a lot of these things as well is that people still have the image of when they first played Classic WoW and such. They want that experience to match as much as they can. But the entire community and player base has changed in a lot of ways. Like in a lot of ways, you would never even have the discussion of how people feel about buying gold publicly that you would have back in the day. Because I remember back in the day, man, you talk about buying gold, people would jump down on you and be like, oh man, like you get a bad reputation, people would yell at you and such. That was just the general sentiment. Because people played the game a lot differently than they played now. Like a lot of people expect different things from the game. People behave differently. They're competitive in different ways. There's more information out there and such. And like I mentioned back when back when we originally talked about all this topic, is that back in the day, literally these gold selling websites, they spread by going and buying all the most popular MMO websites. Like even to this day, Wowhead is owned by the former biggest gold sellers in the world, which is the company IGE, and they still to this day the conglomerate that owns like IGE and all of those things, they still own Wowhead. They still own Wowhead and Thoughtbot and all those things. So it's actually fascinating. It's actually fascinating because if you go back to even some of the other games that kind of died out as WoW kind of took over, like if you go back to the old EverQuest websites, it's still infested with gold selling ads because the gold sellers realize like, wait, if we control every single website, you guys can't stop us. We're just gonna buy Alakazam for old school EverQuest players. They're gonna buy Alakazam, Thoughtbot, Wowhead. We're gonna go and buy every single Discord for every single class, and we're gonna own everything. So you guys want to ban the gold sellers? You can't. We own everything, and you'd have to ban all your own like player-made services. So
it's actually insane.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy how that came about, and that's basically why we have gold farming everywhere, guys. Is that and gold bars everywhere? Is that all those sites were bought up and owned by the original guys that made tens of millions of dollars from signing up gold farms in China. Basically, it's actually crazy. You gotta.
I once used Alakazam to buy Gil in Final Fantasy 11.
Dude, Alakazam is something else.
Yeah, dude, I was just like, wow, is that? I was like, damn, you just brought me back, dude.
Yeah, Alakazam was something else. And it's amazing how scuffed it still is to this day. Like, they have EverQuest Alakazam, and it's even known within the community of EverQuest players still that you do not leave that website open, because whatever they're doing, whether they're using your computer to mine crypto or something, the longer you have Alakazam open, the more your computer slows down. Like, literally, like, you start lagging in the game because you have the website open. It's so scuffed from when the gold sellers bought it.
That's incredible. But yeah. Oh my god. So how's your rogue doing?
It's doing okay. It's doing okay. I've been embracing being in a 3 rogue guild.
Ooh, in the same raid?
Yeah. We basically have a rotation system, Zirene, where we all have. The other rogues have it. I've been a bit slow because I hate leveling. Have boomkins, and so one rogue gets to raid, the other one sits out, and then the third one plays boomkin every week. And we just rotate like that, which has been fine for me because I mainly raid just to experience it and then get gear for PvP. And all the PvP gear I want outside of glaives is really easy to get. So I'm actually okay with not raiding that much because I still get the gear that I want for PvP, and I still get to experience the raids. Although that is definitely not the Zirene philosophy, where you raid every single day at every opportunity. In fact, I assume after this podcast you're gonna go do another raid.
Yeah, I play in my glaive rogues raid in like 40 minutes. So
Yeah.
I literally just logged on to just finish consumes and respec and shit. So yeah.
I was telling...
Dude, raiding so much is interfering with my Elden Ring playtime. I'm really upset recently.
Oh man, hey, your chat's been been getting you to play that as well. My chat's been trying to get me to play that for so long. I
love it.
They love to watch streamers die in Elden Ring. It is.
I love Elden Ring. It is so fun. It is so fun. It is fun. I was doing a thing where every time I died, I took a drink. And then,
I think I saw that. I don't know how drunk you got though, because I skimmed through the VOD.
I didn't realize how much I drank. I went and took out the cans the other day, and I was like, did I really drink that fucking much? Like, it was a lot. I finished all the tequila in my house, all the seltzers as well of 2 different cut types. There was actually, 2 different types of seltzers from like different brands. And my girlfriend was like, there's no way you can go to sleep. You have to raid. Just drink more. Like hair of the dog. Just keep. Yeah, she was like, if you stop drinking, you're gonna pass out if you during your raid. So just drink more. Because one of the ways to actually fight like a hangover is to just keep drinking. Because you can't be hungover if you're drunk. So you just keep drinking. It's actually a thing. If you keep having alcohol in your system and introducing more, you won't get a hangover. Until you fucking stop. So I drank through our entire Black Temple, and it's really funny because my whole guild is like, after that Black Temple, my guild was like, he's a fucking monster when he's drunk. He's like, they were like, he gets a 30% buff when he's drunk. Like, already a good player, but when he's drunk, he plays like a monster. It was actually so funny because I did actually play really well.
Oh, you know what? You know what that means, Zirene? He's just gonna have to make the sacrifice every week to play 30% better.
Oh my god, it was so funny. I was like, because I'm trying really hard. Because here's one of the things. This is what I learned back when I was an actor. Is if you're ever playing an impediment, you're trying to play like you don't have that impediment. So if you walk into a room and you're supposed to be playing a drunk person, don't play like you're drunk. Play like you're not drunk, or you're trying to not be drunk. Because drunk people don't go like, "Oh, I'm really drunk." They just go like, "I'm fine." Like they've got it together. I got it together. That's what drunk people do. Is you try to appear not drunk. And so that's definitely what I was doing the whole raid. Was trying to be like, let's try to make it feel like they don't know I'm drunk when I'm clearly very drunk.
Your uptown just increases because you're paying so much attention to every mob.
Yeah. It's actually true.
Because the mechanics
Oh,
of WoW
God.
aren't actually even like that hard. A lot of it is just focus and attention. So I guess if you're focusing 200%, you're actually increasing your efficiency.
Yeah. In a roundabout way, it does make sense and it does work. It was a fun night. It was a fun night.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah. Oh, I'm so jealous of your glaives, though. My guild still hasn't seen a single glaive yet, so we're still waiting for one to drop. Just waiting for one.
And then one of the three rogues have to fight each other to the death, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, you know the annoying thing is that I know someone that wants to give me a glaive rogue, but I can't take it because it's against TUS for me to play someone else's account. But I know someone that wants to quit
why are
the
you
game.
talking about this right now? Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I don't know who that glaive rogue is. No, I'm just kidding. It's not me.
Yeah, I was saying I should buy it and then change the name to Zirene Cutie. And just raid as it. And
Everybody
just see how
asks
long
me
it
about
takes
the
for
name.
people to
Everybody keeps asking me about the name change tech stuff. It's not that difficult. But
does this still work? I heard it like the way it worked got nerfed.
It works.
Oh, it still works?
I gave it to Bobka so he could change himself from Bobka Mullet.
Oh, okay.
Because Mullet was fucking. He was like, so I don't have to be Bobka Mullet. And he's like, I could remove it.
Yeah, but people don't know because Bobka literally rewrote his rogue in TBC just because he wanted undead. But his out just happened. He needed a name to put at the end, so he put Mullet at the end of it.
Because he had a mullet.
Yeah,
it
made
Bobka
sense.
Mullet. It made sense, but I'm pretty sure he regretted it almost instantaneously. So
yeah.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so that's how my rating's been going. But that's all the topics I got today, Zirene. You got anything else to add?
Nope, I got nothing else, man.
All right, nice. So that was Prepared, episode 38. We will see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.